Today, President Obama didn't just draw a contrast between Donald Trump and himself. He drew a contrast between Donald Trump and every other living president, and even to the Republican opponents he once ran against.
These are the values and traditions I believe in. And they are not Republican or Democratic values. They're American values we can all share, regardless of party. Values every president here today, as different as we are, has tried our best to uphold. Values that John McCain and Mitt Romney believed in no less than I did. It is our greatest inheritance, the story of America at its best, because it reflects a basic faith in the decency of our fellow citizens and the possibility that, despite all of our differences, we can see each other and understand one another and make common cause together.
Joining me now are my old friends, old colleagues, and former speechwriters for President Barack Obama, Jon Favreau and Cody Keenan. I think between the two of you, you wrote a very sizable chunk of Barack Obama's speeches over the course of his 8 years as president.
Am I right? A lot of words.
A lot of words spoken. I felt sitting there today, we were all sitting in a row together with a bunch of our old colleagues and friends too. It was a little bit of an out-of-body experience. We all met when we were in our 20s. We are not in our 20s anymore. And I heard a lot of things. I mean, I heard not overt, but very implied critiques of the moment we're in and the current occupants of the White House. I got a little teared up when Michelle Obama talked about Barack Obama. I've never heard her speak about him like that publicly. Yeah. And I heard a lot of urging people not to be nostalgic and to look forward and look to the fight ahead. What'd you hear, Cody?
All those things. I mean, the first thing I was thinking of is I can't count. I think I can probably count on two hands the number of times I've actually sat in the audience for one of his speeches. It's a really weird experience. We're usually backstage or somewhere else. But to be with people that I've known now for 20 years was really amazing. You know, what I heard is what this place represents. I teach college students now, and a lot of them are, you know, they're hopeful, they're idealistic, but they're still cynical, and they worry about their own agency when everything feels like it's so corrupt and up for grabs. This place is the antidote to that. You know, that quote on the side of the building is the antidote to that. His entire career in public service has been around the idea that people can come together, ordinary people, and do extraordinary things. And that's what this whole center is about.
We're going to come back to that quote because that quote is from a speech you wrote, and we can see it right behind us. So that's pretty cool. We don't all have that.
No.
What about you, John? You were with him, working for him when he ran for president for the whole first term. You and I were together in 2004 listening to parts of his speech when he gave the big convention speech.
We were on the convention floor in Boston.
That's true. What did you hear from him today and from the whole event?
I thought the whole event, and his speech especially, was like a much-needed pep rally for America. It was like a pep talk. Like things are bleak right now, but things have been bad in history before. And the difference between the good times and the bad times that we've had as a country is people putting their shoulder to the wheel and making change happen. And yeah, I think that you mentioned the nostalgia. I think that they are very sensitive to the idea that this is all about nostalgia, but. The intention behind the center when they started this was that it's a place of inspiration for people to come and realize that they can actually make change in their community, in their country. And I think that was the message today. I completely bawled at Michelle's speech. I don't know.
Me too. I was wiping away tears too, yes.
There's this line from Ta-Nehisi Coates about Obama. For 8 years, he walked on ice and never fell. And it was about how he handled race. And her speech today was like that line, even like that was sort of a whole speech around that line, basically. And I think it got me because we all know how hard he worked for 8 years to balance everything you have to balance when you're the president, when you're the first black president, and all the pressures, all the like suppressing emotions of anger or fear or all these. And he was just able to do all that. And having worked in politics for all these years, all three of us, like we know how difficult that is. And recognizing that he was able to achieve that, and Michelle recognizing that, it hit me in a way that I hadn't expected.
And he also hadn't seen it before, and that
Which is
was good. And we could all see on the screen, and maybe people watching this could see it on TV. He was kind of doing the very Obama-esque, wiping away a tear and trying to be low-key about it, which tells you how powerful that was. One of the things that was absent from today, not absent, but wasn't overt, as I said earlier, was really a mention of Trump. It wasn't a day about Trump. There may have been some people watching at home, maybe here, but less so, who maybe wanted him to do a whole takedown of Trump in that speech. And it wasn't that. What did you think of that and that choice? And tell us about why you think he made that choice.
Yeah, the first part of the quote up there is that America is not the project of any one person, right? That was kind of Obama's argument in 2016 when he was out there on the campaign trail. Today wasn't about, it's not even about the Obamas themselves today. So he certainly wasn't going to make it about President Trump. But a lot of what he said in there, again, this place is the antidote, right? You don't like the way things are going right now. This place just teaches you how to gear up, organize, and fight back.
Also, it was about Trump. It was
very implicit.
Yeah, it was about Trump. It was just, people in politics today have sort of lost the art of subtlety.
Yeah.
And so, you expect a speech about Trump to, name Trump 10 times. But it was very clear what he and Michelle were referring to when they were talking about both what the country is going through right now and the character of the type of person that we want to lead a country, and the character and the values that have brought America this far. And those stand in clear contrast to the person in the Oval Office today. But I think that because they are who they are and they are classy and have plenty of grace, they didn't need to mention Trump.
Yeah, it was so implied in the discussion, the part of the speech that was about history, but also the part of the speech that wasn't just about history as in the Constitution, but about empathy and morality and sort of who we are as human beings and how being unified is part of what makes us stronger. Okay, let's talk about the quote on the speech, a quote that is on the building from a speech you wrote, one of the best speeches, if not the best speech, one of the best speeches he delivered as president.
Definitely.
You can
argue
say
that because I wasn't there and I didn't write it, so I can brag about the speech as I do all the time. So.
Tell us about why you think that quote is on the building and what it signifies.
Well, Fabs already knows what I'm going to say, first of all, is that every speech with Barack Obama is a collaboration. Right?
Of course.
We all work on those
He
together.
is the best speechwriter of all. But yes.
Which he will tell you.
He will, yes,
and
he will be the first to tell you that he's a better speechwriter than his speechwriters. But, with John, even once he left the White House, on a big speech like Selma, I'd kick him in the draft and say, what do you think, right? So we all did this stuff together. Those words belong to everybody. But the point that I'd been playing with a riff like that for about a year, just kind of waiting for the right moment. And this felt like the right moment. The we that connects us through history, and we the people in our founding documents, we shall overcome from the civil rights movement. Yes, we can. And I actually had to fight him on Air Force One on the morning of the Selma speech. He crossed out, yes, we can.
And you were like, no, yes, we can. It has to go back in there.
I went right up to him and said, listen, I know you think it's too self-referential. And he said, I do. And I said,
he's always worried it's too hokey.
Yeah, it's not. I said, it's not about you. It is this generation's we. It's the through line. And by the way, you didn't come up with it. Dolores Huerta did. And he said, I'll think about it. And he came back about an hour later and he'd written it back in. And it was rare. It's rare to get a victory on him like that.
He also, I think, and you've told me this story before, kind of knew. He rarely acknowledged when he think out loud that he thinks something went really well. He's a pretty even-keeled guy. But this one he thought went well. The Selma speech when he delivered it.
Yeah, the best thing, he usually just says, I think that was pretty good. That's about as good as it gets. But he came back to the senior staff cabinet on Air Force One and he said, Sasha came up to me and said, I liked that speech, Daddy. She cool. Never likes anything. He was genuinely touched by that, and that's when he knew it was a good one.
That's a telling one. John, you spend a lot of time since writing many speeches, now thinking about the Democratic Party, talking to a lot of Democrats, as I do as well. What do you hope people watching at home, people who are thinking about running, people who are candidates? There was a row of people who are probably going to run in 2028 who were sitting there today. What do you hope they take away?
Barack and Michelle Obama today had something to say about America, where we are right now, where we need to go, and what makes this country so great. And I think that if you're running for president, you need to know why you're running, You need to have a theory of the case for where the country is right now, what's wrong with it, why what's wrong with it is wrong with it, and what you're going to do to fix it. And I don't mean policies and plans and details or like a slogan or exactly the right message. Like, you need a story. And I think what they both showed today in their speeches, and always do, is that they have they're master storytellers. And I think if you're going to run, you need to tell a story about the country, and everything else, the policy, the message, everything flows from that story. But you got to start there. And so before you run for president, you got to sit down and think, okay, why do I want to do this? And like, put away the polls, don't talk to your advisors, just like write down why you actually want to do this and where you want to take the country before you actually do it. Because if you do that and you know what you believe and you know what you want to say, then the rest of the campaign flows from there.
Jon Favreau, Cody Keenan, I hope the 450 people who may run for president are listening to that excellent advice. That's a perfect place to end. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.